Hello and welcome back to the Backseat Cinema Club. I'm Callum.
I'm Jonny.
And today we're going to do something a little bit different because it is the 10-year anniversary of a film that is very important to both myself and Jonny.
Well, it will be in November.
It will be in November,
Yeah.
but you know, basically we've been wanting to do this for a while, and
and we have threatened we're going to do it for a while.
Yeah.
And we figured, let's stop just having empty threats.
And just do it.
Let's just do it, man.
So, today we're going to debate whether or not Interstellar is a good film. Well, actually, no. I mean, we both think it's a good film. You think it's basically perfect, and I think it's basically highly
perfect.
flawed.
I just love the movie. I don't care about the flaws. I just love the movie.
Well, I think the flaws are serious flaws and scupper what could be a truly classic film, make it just fine.
But the film is a true classic.
No, it's not.
It's aged so well. Like, if you look at just like people's like.
Right. Okay. We're getting into it. Right. Okay. We're jumping
starting
into
off on a hot start.
Okay. So, I think we should each be allowed to make our case. Maybe like an opening,
we
couple of minutes of remarks.
Like the judge.
It's fine. We'll just have to discipline ourselves.
We need a judge for this one, I feel like.
Okay. Well, we've started recording now, so it's too late.
It is what it is. It's ungoverned.
Right.
The Tenet debate, we have a judge. You may make first remarks.
Oh, thank you. Really?
Yeah,
okay. So, Interstellar. When I first saw Interstellar, it instantly became my favourite film. It combined the two things that I found most interesting in life. That was films and like physics, science fiction, blah blah blah. The context here being I studied physics at university, and I was only 13 when Interstellar came out, but I was already pretty certain that was what I wanted to do at university. And
I thought you said you were 12 when you started studying physics at university.
No, I'm not Sheldon Cooper. I was in fact 18, like a normal person.
A regular human.
But anyway, yeah, it was like, oh my god, this film is specifically for me.
Yeah.
I love it. Great. Cut to 10 years later, I think visually, the film is still, in every aesthetic sense, the film is a masterpiece. Visually, it's aged excellent. The music is obviously just phenomenal.
Yeah.
The production design is really good. The performances are okay. Gets that. I think Matthew McConaughey is really good.
Yeah.
The script, however, oh boy, the script has not aged well. And it is quite symbolic of a lot of problems with Nolan's writing. And I guess I'm using Nolan interchangeably for Jonathan and or Christopher. Yeah, so I rewatched it over the weekend, and there are some scenes where you're just like, oh, that's not good. That's very on the nose. Why are you saying the subtext out loud? And then the film also kind of, it's very authentic. Scientifically, it's very authentic in lots of ways, but also very inauthentic in lots of ways. And it can't decide which it wants to be, and that frustrates me. That's not even me as like a physics graduate. That frustrates me. That's like as someone who just cares about tone. It frustrates me. Anyway, Jonny, your opening remarks.
Well, I'm just going to come with like a question before I forget, because
Yeah.
I will simply just forget.
Go on.
What you said about it feeling, not even as like a physics student, just as an audience member, it feeling like tonally about the physics not quite.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So relativity in the film and how that impacts the characters is handled really, really well. It was the first time a film had basically taken the effects of time dilation and used it to create these phenomenal character moments. And it had that has a very hard sci-fi feel to it.
Yeah.
I like that they use the rotation of the Endurance to give it artificial gravity. There's all these details. It's like, okay, you really understood what you were doing. But then every now and again, there's a line where Matthew McConaughey will say something like, oh, is there a way we can like jump in the black hole and get the time back?
Yeah, but
and I'm like, no. He knows enough science to know that is just bullshit. His character is supposed to also like know enough physics to know that, like, I'm not being funny. It's just like a line from Star Wars suddenly inserted into this very hard sci-fi film, and it just really jars on me. Or there's another bit where he's like, "Oh, I can swing around that neutron star," and it's like, no, you were doing so well at an authentic portrayal of space exploration, and you just fucked it. And yeah, that annoys me.
You know, I'd argue that's something that like
Go on.
99% of the human beings watching the movie
No, I
are going to
agree.
pick up on and go like,
No, I agree. I accept that. This is a complaint that is unique to me. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, it is a complaint that I have.
yeah. And that's the most important thing we know about movies is they are subjective.
They are.
And if something bothers you, it is a problem.
Yeah.
And if something doesn't bother you, then it's just not a problem.
Anyway,
That's just
Johnny,
movies.
go on. Give me your piece on the film.
My whole philosophy when it comes to just films, or if I'm going to be a little pretentious asshole, art in general, is I like to feel something.
Mm-hmm.
As to what that feeling is, it doesn't. I'm not saying like by feel something. I don't mean I want to sit there and like bawl my eyes out to every movie I ever watch, because that would be a tiresome experience in the cinema if that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
But Interstellar is one of those movies that you watch it and it's to use Tim's favourite expression. And this is a quote after we saw I took him to see Interstellar at the BFI IMAX to see the 70mm IMAX print of the movie. He said it was a very nice human story.
Mm-hmm.
They just had WTF on their number plate. That was nice. And he is very much correct. It's just a beautiful story, but I feel like people always criticise Nolan as being a very cold filmmaker. They say he's very distant. He cares more about themes than he does about people. And I'd argue Interstellar is kind of the complete opposite of that. He cares so much about. For me, the film feels so like invested in the human scale of it and the human perspective of interstellar space travel, that when they're in space talking about all this crazy shit, and Hathaway goes on a monologue talking about how she thinks love is more important than other things, and it's like that's about human nature. I think that's kind of the most interesting part of the movie. Like I love films that like you, I love space. I find it very interesting. I haven't studied it like you have really. I'm a YouTube scientist, shall we say. But I find space very interesting. So the movie for me is like I just love watching it. Like those scenes that they're just floating through, like just out of space. If anyone watching this has had the privilege of seeing it in like full big boy IMAX, then you'll understand what I'm saying. But it's just like some of those images on that full screen, it's an unbelievable experience.
You're looking at shots and you're like, how did they do that? Like,
yeah, I mean,
it's great.
It's like I can't really think of a single visual effect in space that doesn't look good.
So
Like the ones in space, there's a couple on like some of the planets that you see like some flaws in or whatever, but that just happens. That's fine. But the ones in space.
So it's funny you should bring up that Anne Hathaway monologue, because I think that scene for me is deeply problematic, actually. And for me, that's where the film really falls apart.
Yeah.
So firstly, I think it is unfortunate that of the scientist characters, the one that abandons rationality and decides to go with gut emotion is the only female one. I think that is unfortunate, and I think that is a wider symptom of Nolan's writing. I also think, again, it just tonally, it's like, hold on a minute, the film was very much in one place.
Yeah, but I'd argue,
and now it's moved into this other place.
Very on tone. Like Cooper's entire like conflict for the whole start of the movie is about his love for his daughter. Everything every character does is about love. Like the film is about love. It's not tonally like when you think it's on the nose, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah, I think
it feels very in line with the rest of the movie to me.
Okay, I buy what you're saying about our core characters are motivated by their love for other characters. I buy that. But again, the delivery of that monologue is, in terms of how it's written, is I would allege beneath some of the rest of the movie. Once you get past that point, Brand as a character I find quite difficult after that point, because she's no longer sort of operating under the same. The character feels less dignified after that moment, and that's just a shame. because the film kind of doesn't take her side, but doesn't not take her side. And it just leaves a weird taste in your mouth after that scene.
I mean, I kind of view that scene, it's one of those like weird moments in the film where I don't believe like her character's speaking rationally. Like they're starting saying, we have two choices. We go to one of these two planets.
We go to Miller's planet.
One of them has someone she's in love with on.
Mm-hmm.
She is going to root for that. And then everyone is shutting her down at like every argument she tries to make. So like, for me, like I watch it and it is like a last ditch attempt at humanity to like appeal to Cooper, a man who has made such a big deal about his love for his daughter. Shout out to Tom, who gets forgotten. Timothy Chalamet slash Casey Affleck. Yes, who is forgotten quite a lot. He's the real goat, but here we are.
Mm-hmm.
So like for me, that's kind of, I don't read the scene as her being like, this is scientific proof. This is what it is. For me, it's her.
She is self-conscious in that she's being, she's not you taking a rational approach to the situation.
Like I will agree, some of the delivery could have been smoother, but the sentiment, like watch what she's actually saying.
Maybe it's that I have a problem with the sentiment, and I feel that the sentiment is beneath beneath what the film had been setting itself up to be. Maybe that's what bothers me about it.
Yeah. Because the whole movie is like, it's just Nolan being like, hey man, as a race, we may be a little bit fucked, but at the end of the day, to use a wonderful lyric from the Beatles, all you need is love.
Do.
And you will be fine.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, Brand was right.
No, she wasn't.
Yes, she was. She took off her helmet on her planet at the end of the day. And it was breathable air.
Yes.
On the planet, so she was right.
Her dude was dead though.
Oh yeah, but it had been however long.
Yeah.
Because they were like that close to a black hole for however bloody long, so.
Yeah, okay. Alright.
I mean, there's things we can universally agree on about Interstellar. Hans Zimmer cooks. It's the greatest, like, A to Z film score, I think, ever.
Yeah.
Like, there is no movie that has a better score. And Nolan, as like a director, I think has the best scores out of any director. Like, his catalogue of music for his movies is unbelievable. Like,
yeah, I think it's him or Spielberg. And that's about it.
Yeah.
And clearly Spielberg is highly reliant on one particular composer anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Nolan's used, what, 3? David Julian, he did Prestige, Memento.
David Julian, Hans Zimmer, and
Ludwig. Big Ludwig.
Ludwig Göransson.
Big dog.
Okay, I'm going to find another line of attack. and it's all in the writing. It really is all in the writing.
But like, I mean, there's things that I agree on that aren't perfect about the movie, but I watch it and I just love it. Like, the movie makes me feel something, and I love that.
So all those moments where, okay, like here's another example.
Right.
Like when Coop and the grandfather character are sat at the front porch outside of the house, and there's supposed to be like this quite heartfelt scene between the two of them, but it's just solid exposition the whole way through, and like there's no subtext left as subtext. Like Grandad specifically says, "Oh, Coop, you had something you were good at, and it was taken away from you." And as an audience member, I'm sat there like, "Yeah, I get that part. I know. You don't have to say it out loud." It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like, does none of those moments bother you?
Not really. Not really. I can't lie. I watched the film last night. It's just, it is a warm hug of a movie.
Oh,
you know?
God.
Like, for me, it's the humanity of it I love. I think that's it for me. It's like, it's the scene where Romilly is is having a bit of an existential crisis in space. Bro is like, there's like a couple inches of shit in that space.
That's a good scene.
Infinite nothing. Then Matthew McConaughey just walks in and goes, "Sounds of birds, bro." And it's just like, yeah. It kind of, remind everyone why we're here, what are we doing, why are we doing it, and just go, hey man, there's something we're doing this for, humanity, our Earth. Like, I don't know, I've never understood the criticism of Nolan being cold or distant. Even when it comes to Tenet, that's kind of like, the whole thing is the film is such a lonely movie. I mean, it makes such a big deal of how lonely the protagonist is. They don't even give him a bloody name. Like he's so lonely as a character. Like we see him in like just everywhere by himself for just days.
Mm-hmm. I think the criticism is overused, but there are times when it is fair. I don't think Interstellar is a time to use that criticism. I think Interstellar is on the more emotional side of a Nolan film. I think his thing is about viscerality of experience, and often being remote from the characters can be what sometimes makes things more visceral.
Yeah.
I mean, Dunkirk would be the key example of that. I think it's very interesting that Interstellar, which is one of his yappiest films, is followed up by a film which almost has no dialogue.
I mean, I very much get that. you write so much dialogue and you're just like, no, please, just no. I wish to make silent films personally for life, but you know, people need to talk every now and then, it would seem.
I think maybe so I think what we're getting to here is that we have different things bother us or grab our attention as two different audience members.
We're like Brandon Cooper during that scene. You're like, look at the data, bro. I'm like, nah, bro. Fuck the data.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, visually, the film is truly a masterpiece, and is a demonstration that blend of practical effects composited with CG is still the answer to making timeless looking VFX.
Yeah.
Clearly, the rendering of the black hole was actually like a major leap forward in our scientific understanding of what black holes look like.
Which is kind of crazy for a film.
It's to do with the money, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think the Endurance is a great design. I think the Rangers and the Landers, they're all a great design.
Spacesuits
look great. It really does, just for me, does come down to poor dialogue in quite a few scenes, and an inconsistent approach to how space exploration is portrayed in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I very much agree. The film is not perfect. I just love it.
I just
but when it's just the when you watch the scene where Cooper comes up to Murph, she's in the hospital bed, she's old.
Oh yeah,
and then she says, "Because my dad promised me so. Do you not just cry?"
No. Okay,
like,
so here's
it breaks me every time. It's unbelievable.
And I think this is the core of it for me.
Yeah.
There's so much good in it.
Yeah.
It really frustrates me when it isn't. It's so close to being a perfect film
No
that
film's
when
perfect.
Well, you know what I mean.
No film's perfect.
I know, but it's so close to being
apart from Tenet.
a great separate conversation.
I don't even agree with that personally.
You just want to wipe me up.
Yeah.
It's so close. Okay, fine. It's so close to being a truly great film. I don't think it is a truly great film. It's so close, but from my point of view, it's so close to being that, but misses the mark on enough occasions that it's so infuriating. That's what frustrates me about it, is that there's so much potential.
Yeah.
And it doesn't quite bring it home every time that it should. So for it, like, to tell you some scenes in the film I love, that would be a great example, is the final scene between Cooper and Murph.
Yeah.
In the hospital. I love every interaction Cooper has with the robots.
Yeah.
For some reason, the dialogue just starts to work again.
Yeah.
Then.
I mean, Matthew McConaughey, I mean, you said it as well, like, he's unbelievable in that movie. It's, the chemistry he has with a robot is rather impressive.
People don't sleep on that Matthew McConaughey performance because it's all over reels, but it is one of the great performances of the 2010s. Yeah. Like, he really, like, if he holds that film together,
he's got so much warmth
in a really fundamental way.
It's like a character. Like,
yeah.
His presence. He's just so, like, he is a great film dad. I can't think of many better film dads than Cooper in Interstellar. I really can't.
Cooper as a character comes very fully formed.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think Jessica Chastain's Murph is also like a really great performance.
Yeah.
I'm not so convinced by Anne Hathaway as Brand, but I don't think that's Anne Hathaway's fault. I think that's the way that character is written. I just find, yeah, I think they pile a lot of irrationalities into this one character in an almost spiteful way.
Yeah, but I mean,
I get the vibe,
Nolan
right?
has like his filmography is just about irrational characters. Like Memento,
But
bro literally discovers the thing he's been trying to figure out and goes, nah, I'd rather just forget and figure it out again. Oppenheimer, like, you know, hello.
yeah, but
those are just
the difference is,
those are just the people
as
who's
an
interested
audience,
in
I
exploring.
think as an audience member, you are supposed to like Brand, but it's
I like
not.
Brand.
But it's not obvious to me that Nolan likes Brand.
I think Nolan loves Brand.
Like,
He made a film about how important love is and just went, if there's one character that I'm going to make, the one who's spot on the money, it's her.
okay.
And like, you know, you don't hate a character that you do that to. Like I think he humanizes everyone in the movie, including Dr. Man. Like,
Dr. Man's a very interesting character.
I may be like, you're. I mean, as they call him a coward, but like,
He is a coward.
none of us have been in his shoes, and Nolan very much doesn't kind of say. I mean, for me, it doesn't feel like Nolan judges him too harshly, which I appreciate. I like it when he kind of, I like films where they kind of go, even if the characters are reprehensible pieces of shit. I don't like when the film just goes, this person bad. It's like, I love The Wolf of Wall Street, but Scorsese doesn't go like, this person bad. Like, watch it, and if you don't go, he's a bad person, that's on you.
I think I disagree that Nolan isn't judging Dr. Man. I think the film makes it quite clear that by having the protagonist call him a fucking coward, that you are supposed to think that he's gone off the deep end.
Well, yeah, because he has, but it's more like Nolan gives Man the chance of being like,
and Man's quite self-serving. A lot of his dialogue is very self-serving. He's like, you weren't tested like I was.
yeah.
Kind of. And I don't think that is dialogue you attribute to a character. You want people to not judge too much.
Well, no, like, it's for me, I think the most humanizing line that Man has is when he says that when Cooper and him have gone off on their walk, when he's planning to whack Cooper, when he's just like, all of us left on that mission, and none of us quite really, even though we knew the dangers, none of us thought that our world wasn't going to be the one.
Which I think I never really considered the possibility that my world wouldn't be the one. Yeah.
Which, like, to me, I'm just like, he's given this character their fair due.
No, well, okay, so that gives the character depth, but that's not a very likable trait.
Well, no,
I would say.
I'm saying that Nolan isn't judging them harshly. I don't think it doesn't mean he's doesn't mean he has to make a character like likable.
Mm-hmm.
It's about giving them the ability to say their piece. Like, I think you're judging your characters when you're ignoring like sides of them because what you want to say, and you don't want to give them any validity as like a person or a character. But Nolan literally just lets Man, you know, he lets him talk. He lets
himself.
And
I guess the impression you get is of a guy who has a bit of a protagonist complex.
Yeah.
And when the story of his life did not meet up to that, he
was hit with the biggest "you're not that guy, pal."
Yeah, and clearly bent the rules of his mission and those around him to try and undo that. Okay. The Tesseract.
A really convenient place to park.
Yeah, I think this guy is moving though. Yeah, they are. The Tesseract.
What a beautiful just visual that is, eh?
It is. It's a shame about all the dialogue in that scene.
How? Elaborate.
Right.
I'm wetting my whistle. Give me a second. I need some water.
Let me think about this.
Water break.
It's basically Matthew McConaughey explaining everything.
Yeah, but if you look at how many
entirety of that scene,
Interstellar explained videos there are, it's clear that even though he sits there and explains it, the concept of a tesseract and what it actually is, showing physical time as a physical place, is not like a simple concept for the audience to grasp. Like, while it is a lot, especially on like a rewatch, you can there's some lines you can kind of just, I think, just tune out of. On like a first watch, I think they're necessary.
Yeah. So what you're saying is the amount of exposition in this scene, which I think we can agree is a lot.
Yes.
Your argument is you need it, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
I think a lot of the exposition arguments against Interstellar, if people were like, well, my least favorite argument about exposition is show don't tell, which is like, no, shut up. Because like, if you were to show everything that they explain in the movie, it would be 4 hours long.
No,
like a lot of times, like
so
it's a very long movie anyway. Like for efficiency, just say some stuff and get over and done with.
There are times when I think the exposition is well placed. I think they get away with a lot of it through Professor Brand. So Michael Caine's character, I think they get away with basically all of that. I think when they're explaining how the wormhole works, that's a nice scene. So I think there are times when the exposition does do the trick. It's just that scene does not, you know, your plot, your finale resolution scene is not the time to be doing it. And I guess they back themselves into a corner by having the finale resolution be a very complex metaphysical idea.
Yeah, but it's a good one.
It is a good one. It is a good one. And it's quite abstract science fiction.
Yeah.
It's a frustrating film. It's a deeply frustrating film.
Yeah, I can very much feel the love-hate relationship you have
Yeah.
with it just flowing over this way. I just accept Interstellar like a person, flaws and all. I love it for who it really is. And I accept that, like us all, it has its flaws.
Here's the thing.
Which is very fitting for a movie about love and about humanity.
There are. You maybe,
only that was intentional
I think you've grasped the spirit of the film more than I have. Which is, so this is the thing for me. There are films that I love, flaws and all.
Yeah.
For some reason, the flaws that I have explained are sufficiently off-putting to me that I fell out of love with the film a little bit.
I mean, they are for an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a very divisive movie. People are either like, I will die for Interstellar, or they're like, I don't get it. And like,
I don't have the attitude.
I follow people on the internet use I don't get it as like or like saying someone doesn't get it as like a derogatory thing. It's just not.
No, I don't have that stance on it.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Like it's just, if you don't get something, it's just not for you, and that's fine. Or like certain things bother you more than they do other people, and that's just fine.
That's what bothers me. The film is for me.
Yeah. This should be my movie.
This should be my film.
Yeah.
This, you know, this film should be my absolute ride or die, but it just isn't, and it's so annoying.
I mean, how much of that do you wonder is, as someone who is like so knowledgeable about the scientific side, when you see things about that annoy you, that kind of makes you kind of, that annoyance can spread more easily to other things.
No, because so okay, so I think there is some truth to that. I think there is a truth that I am going to have difficulty accepting the more goofy sci-fi moments.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the overriding factor. And the reasons I would give for that are, I'm a massive fan of things like Star Trek and Doctor Who, which have no grounding in science at all.
Yeah, but
and I don't care.
Like, and it is so grounded for so much. Then kind of goes like, for a few bits.
Yeah. Okay, the other point I would have is, I don't mind when Interstellar is, I don't mind it doing like weird sci-fi stuff in the plot. So I don't mind that there's aliens, there's 5-dimensional aliens or the Tesseract. I don't mind any of that. I mind when the characters who are supposed to be serious scientists stop acting like serious scientists. That's what bothers me.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to the characters rather than what's actually happening in the story. I'm happy for it to be a science fiction story with like some real elements that are grounded in actual scientific theory and some speculative elements, like what happens when he goes through the black hole or the existence of the Tesseract or the wormhole or things like that.
Yeah.
I'm completely happy to have that sort of speculative science fiction element to it. What bothers me is when these characters who are for the first 45 minutes of the film highly authentic portrayals of scientists, when they just go off the deep end, that bothers me. I think we've gotten to the core of it. Go on, what's your unsensing?
I mean, when you mentioned the fifth dimensional,
Yeah.
slow down, Turbo. The race got 2 wheels going around that corner.
Yeah.
What you're saying about that was an Interstellar quote. If anyone got that, that was relevant? Get it?
No, it's slow down so. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, nice. Very
Really,
good.
that was low hanging fruit. Had to
Yeah.
do it. Yeah. What you're saying about the fifth dimensional aliens is what another thing Cooper says in the Tesseract is that they're not like aliens or higher beings. They're just us in the future when we have figured out how to harness this stuff. And it's like how Cooper's going back and giving Murph a hand. They're going back and giving him a hand.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that is such a tidy bit of writing. I was like, Nolan.
I like all that. I don't have a problem with that.
Cheeky little boy. How dare you?
I don't have a problem with that at all. I just wish they'd explained it in a more subtle way.
How do you mean?
He literally says it. He literally says it in much the way you've just said it.
Uh-huh.
And people don't talk like that. And I feel like you could.
People don't talk like they do in movies anyway. Like
no.
Because like movies, like as like a writer, movies are the CEO of like the argument you come up with in the shower the day after for something. That is like a movie. You can just have that. People don't talk like they do in movies anyway.
But just the whole explanation of that could have been more like, you know,
Poetic.
Poetic, yeah, rather than him just saying it.
Yeah.
Because the concept is poetic. The way Cooper says it is very blunt.
Yeah.
And frustrating.
Yeah.
Because how neat, for me, how neat a concept that is undermined by the way it's explained.
Yes.
Whereas I think for you, and I guess this links to Tenet as well, you're not so fussed about how it's just been explained to you, because once you see the big picture of the concept, you're like, oh, that's cool anyway.
Yeah.
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 Whereas for me, the delivery is half. That's half of it.
Yeah. And this is why films are so wonderful. Everyone's just got like a.
Like, if you put a gun to my head and said, "Do you like Interstellar?" I would probably say yes.
Yeah.
But it just anchors me. It's just so frustrating.
And yeah, I mean, like,
I would rather it existed than didn't exist.
Yeah. There's so many of like the things that you really hate about it. It's literally a case of just like, because you love so much about it.
Yeah.
You want to just hold the movie to just a higher standard and be like, because like I feel like what Nolan's had as a filmmaker is some of the standards people hold him to for like things that they will not let him get away with are crazy.
Yeah.
But because he's so good, and he's shown that he has to be held to a high standard as a I guess as a director from that standpoint. A filmmaker, that people do it. We'll do another loop over here and then we'll wrap up, by the way. Yeah, he is. His filmmaking is of such a high standard, and I think the potential that is present in Interstellar was so high for me personally as a film that when it scuppers it in 5 or 6 scenes and moments throughout the film, it really bugs me. It really bugs me. What's your favourite and least favourite scene from Interstellar? I'll give mine off.
So my least favourite scene is Brand's monologue about love. I think it undermines her. I think it undermines her character. I think it, and I think the film. The vibe I get from that scene is you are slightly looking down on her a bit, because the other characters are, and yeah, I think it doesn't do her character any favors, and I think it's the point where the film starts to lose me. My favorite scene is the docking sequence, the spinning docking sequence.
Yeah,
that is. I remember I have a very, very vivid memory of watching that in the cinema for the first time and thinking, wow, I have never. Now, clearly other stuff out there like that does exist in films, but I had never seen anything like that. And on a big screen, something that intense, something that like well choreographed and executed as a scene, I had just never seen anything that jaw-dropping. And that sequence for me is like, okay, that's watching that is like, okay, cool, maybe I want to make films.
You're like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. What about yourself?
Favorites? Honestly, after I asked you the question, I was like, I actually don't know what mine are. So I was just thinking, favorite wise, I have a few. Even though it's a very short scene, the scene where Bran takes off her helmet at the end.
Yeah, it's a good moment.
Always gets a little chill up the arm, as it just has now from just talking about it, which is quite, I guess, something. The docking scene, there's not much more I can say about it that hasn't already been said. Like, it's a spectacular piece of cinema. Like, it deserves the term cinema. What Martin Scorsese meme was going.
Yeah.
It's that scene is pure cinema. I love the scene of Cooper driving away from his house. Like, if we're looking from like a filmmaking standpoint,
the takeoff sequence.
it's so, the way it's shot is just so simple. Just a shot of Cooper sitting there, a shot out the back of the car, and then a forwards and a reverse track of Murph. I'm probably missing some other shots, but like it's not crazily like complex. The scene of Cooper saying goodbye to Murph is beautiful. I think my least favourite scene, it might be one of the ones with Cooper and Michael Caine's Dr. Brand at the start.
Really, which one? When they're like going through the labs, looking at like all the crops and stuff, or?
Maybe, I don't know. I kind of feel like I tune out from them. Like, I know they're important, but like,
You just.
yeah.
So basically, once they leave Earth, there's nothing in the film that bothers you. Like.
Well, no, like there's things I wish were smoother, but there's things that I'm like, I like the sentiment of this so much that like it's fine.
Okay, fair enough.
Like this, even though like I'm saying the scene where Dr. Brandish, or is he Professor? Is he Professor?
He's Professor. She's Doctor.
Amelia's Doctor. Yeah. Where Professor Brandish showing him around the lab, even though they're necessary, I'm just a bit like, you know.
No, I get you.
On like a rewatch, I don't need it because I already know it. But on the first watch, you need it. Which I always find, I don't know if you find it when writing, it's kind of like dealing with this balance of like, on the first watch, people will need to know this, but once they know it, they don't need to watch this scene ever again. And it's trying to make like scenes that can kind of serve both purposes. Because like I love Tenet, but there is a glaring scene in Tenet, which once you've seen the movie, doesn't need to exist. But,
Maybe if
when you haven't seen it, you need the scene.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, I've always found as like a writer, there's like that mental thing of like, how do I make a scene that
I think the trick
serves the first watch
and the
54th millionth watch.
I guess the trick with a scene like that is to have it be doing multiple things at once. Maybe make it a funny scene, make it a scene with just more than one thing happening. Okay, should we leave it there? I think that is.
At the end of the day, kids, all that matters is what you think about movies.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying I hate Interstellar or it sucks.
Yeah,
I'm just saying I don't think it quite lived up to its potential.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Whereas you're like, no, masterpiece.
It's just, I love it, flaws and all.
Mm-hmm.
Flaws and all.
Well, thank you.
There's things I wish were different. But
yeah,
isn't there always?
That is true.
It's a lesson in life.
For me, those things that I wish are different make me want to throw my remote at the screen while I'm watching it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the Backseat Cinema Club. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with hopefully a more conventional episode. But yeah, so we just wanted to give this a go.
Indeed.
So thank you so much, and we'll see you later.
Adios.